Every 4th of July, Americans gather under a sky bursting with red, white, and blue, celebrating the birth of a nation. With backyard barbecues and tales of 1776, the year a fearless crew of colonists, wielding muskets in raw determination, toppled the British Empire to claim their freedom. It's the story we've all memorized, a plucky rebellion of ordinary folks, farmers, shopkeepers, dreamers facing down, a king's crimson army and winning through grit alone. But what if that's just the shiny surface of a far darker, more tangled tale? What if the American Revolution wasn't our little fight for liberty, but a brutal thread in a global tapestry of war, a conflict where empires schemed, allies, twisted knives, and battles from snowy Massachusetts to sun-scorched India shaped our destiny? A mesmerizing new exhibition at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. dares to dig deeper, weaving questions into its narrative that challenge everything you thought you knew about the birth of the United States. Titled The American Revolution, a World War, this isn't a quaint stroll through powdered wig nostalgia or a rehash of the Boston Tea Party. It's an epic, gut-punching journey into a worldwide clash where Britain, France, Spain, the Dutch Republic, and distant lands from the rum-drenched ports of Jamaica to the stony ramparts of Gibraltar, and the steamy chaos of India locked horns in a desperate scramble for power. Ever wonder why we didn't end up saluting the British flag, asks David K. Allison, the exhibition's curator, project director, and co-author of a forthcoming book that's poised to rewrite history. Here's the answer. When this war blew up into a global showdown, when cannons echoed from the colonies to the Indian Ocean, Britain had to pick, fight for us, or save their empire's real prizes. They didn't choose us. What war set the stage for our rebellion? Let's rewind to a question. What conflict laid the groundwork for the Revolution? The answer lies in the 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763, known here as the French and Indian War. Was it just a colonial spat? Not even close. It was a global slugfest that redrew the world. Imagine British redcoats and colonial scouts hacking through icy forests, battling French soldiers and their native allies, while across the planet fleets pounded ports from Havana to Pondicherry. Britain emerged victorious, its navy a juggernaut, its empire fattened with spoils like Canada and chunks of India. France and Spain staggered away, humiliated, their maps slashed. So why did they care about our uprising in 1775? Because it was their shot at revenge. We were their weapon. Allison says, his eyes glinting. France and Spain didn't love our freedom, they hated Britain's guts. Picture France glittering under Louis XVI, shipping crates of muskets, barrels of powder, and boatloads of troops to our shores, its king grinning at the thought of a crippled rival. Spain, driven by Charles III's imperial dreams, piles in, with soldiers and silver, eyeing lost territories. The Dutch Republic, a cunning trader with a knack for chaos, sneaks supplies past British ships, counting coins with every delivery. Were these our noble allies? Nope, they were vultures circling a wounded lion. Britain, its redcoats slogging through our swamps, soon faced a war it couldn't contain. Its navy stretched thin, its treasury bleeding, its generals muttering about juicier targets like India's spice trade or the Caribbean's sugar riches. By 1778, London's war rooms buzzed with a grim question. Why die for these colonies when the real wealth's elsewhere? Who was really fighting for what? Here's a stumper. Was the revolution about our liberty or someone else's greed? The truth cuts deep. Peel back the life, liberty, and happiness rhetoric, and you're left with a raw scramble for power and profit. France didn't cheer for our declaration. It wanted Britain's trade empire in ruins. Spain didn't care about our militias. It craved Gibraltar and its American colonies secure. The Dutch, they saw a payday in every smuggled crate. For them, our rebellion was a battering ram. If we broke free, Britain would buckle, and they'd scoop up new markets and turf. This wasn't our pure quest, Allison says, his voice like steel. It was their power play, we were just the spark. The exhibition's crown jewels are two stunning French paintings, The Siege of Yorktown and The Surrender of Yorktown, restored works by Louis-Nicolas van Blarenburg that shred our cozy myths. You know, John Trumbull's The Surrender of Lord Cornwallis, Washington and Lincoln front and center at the Capitol. Van Blarenburg's vision? Americans are specks. On the sidelines, while French troops and ships dominate, their banners snapping like victory's pulse. Why the mismatch? Because these paintings reveal a truth we've ducked. Our win wasn't all ours. Who turned the tide at Yorktown? October 1781, Virginia's coast, General Cornwallis hunkers down, his army ragged, banking on British ships to save him. Ever wonder why they didn't show? Admiral de Grasse's French fleet storms the Chesapeake, a wall of oak and iron that blasts Britain's rescue to bits. On land, General Rochambeau's French artillery pounds Cornwallis's lines, their precision outshining our scrappy volleys. Our boys fought hard, but who clinched it? France did, Allison says, no hesitation. Their navy cut off Cornwallis's escape, their guns broke his will. Spain's gold and Dutch supplies kept us breathing. Yorktown wasn't just our grit, it was their muscle. But was Yorktown the end? Not by a long shot. Across the Atlantic, France and Spain hatched wild schemes invading Britain, storming Gibraltar plans that crashed against British stubbornness. So where did this war really wrap up? Not Virginia, 1781. It was Cuddalore, India, 1783. Imagine British and French troops clashing under a blazing sun, bayonets flashing thousands of miles from Boston, fighting over colonial scraps while we patched our new nation together. Why India? Because this wasn't our war alone, it was a global brawl, and India was the prize Britain wouldn't lose. Who paid for our independence? The 1783 Treaty of Paris sorted the chaos. Britain, its navy, still king, let us slip away. France strutted with renewed pride. Spain clutched its colonies, and the Dutch limped off, their trade dreams bruised. But who footed the bill? The exhibition answers with relics that hum with history. A French cannon etched with Yorktown's fury, a model of de Grasse's Ville de Paris slicing the waves, and a weathered portrait of Washington by Charles Wilson Peale, a silent nod to the shaky alliance that birthed us. These aren't trinkets, they're proof of a price paid in foreign blood, sweat, and gold. Lafayette or Rochambeau, who deserves the medal? We adore Lafayette, our French golden boy, young and bold, a name on every monument. But was he the hero? The exhibition digs in. Lafayette was a flare, not the fire. Rochambeau, the battle-hardened French general, was the backbone, turning Yorktown into Britain's tomb. Lafayette's 1824 tour, plates, a quirky dicky, and World War I pilots in the Lafayette escadrille made him a star, but Rochambeau's grit won the war. Why do we hype one and skip the other? Because legends are simpler than reality. Why don't we tell this story? John Adams nailed it in 1784. The Revolution was nearly the history of mankind, a sprawling web of Britain, France, Spain, Holland, and beyond. So why did we shrink it into a Lone Ranger tale? Our 19th century mythmakers crafted a story of rugged heroism, fueling the idea that America rose by its own bootstrap brilliance. This exhibition shatters that illusion. We didn't win this alone, Allison says, his voice heavy. We were forged in a furnace of global ambition, native sacrifice, and battles from Bunker Hill to Bengal. Without those empires, without their schemes and steel, we'd be a memory under a British crown. What does this say about us now? Here's the big one. If our freedom came from a global war, not just our pluck, what does that mean for America today? The exhibition doesn't just look back, it holds up a mirror. We weren't an island of valor. We were a piece in a bloody puzzle, shaped by foreign hands as much as our own. This isn't just history. Allison insists it's who we are, a nation born in chaos, not just courage, tied to the world whether we like it or not. The American Revolution, a World War, curated by David K. Allison, runs from June 26 to July 9, 2019, at the National Museum of American History. It's not a lecture, it's a wake-up call, packed with questions. Whose war was it? Who won it? What did it cost? The answers lie here in a story of blood, betrayal, and a world remade.